Older Redditors. What do young people get completely wrong about past decades? Up until video rental stores in the early 80s. At school the next day, every kid was talking about what was on TV the night before, as every single family was watching TV together every single night. With some exceptions, most people watched the same thing as their schoolmates or co-workers, just to be a part of the conversation. I am definitely an older Redditor born in 1949. What today's young people don't appreciate is how, growing up, we had to invent our own sources of fun. There were no video games, which I enjoy playing, just 3 channels on a black and white TV. We didn't get color until 1967, and no real entertainment aimed at kids. All we could do is interact with each other and play established games like marbles, or maybe an organized sport like Little League Baseball. There was a baseball diamond, overgrown with weeds, across the street from us, but mostly we played in the woods that surrounded us, climbing trees pretending to be pirates or some such. I loved the bookmobiles that would visit my street, and I must have read every biography, all bound in blue covers, in my elementary school library. It was a different era with many fewer distractions, and much more time for sustained imagination. Being a different place and time, we developed different skills for interacting with the world and each other than young people do today. Was it better? That's hard to say. We tended to have an insular view of our own little world, while today it is hard to escape what is happening everywhere on Earth. We had to wait days for a letter to arrive, and we shared a party line with our neighbor's phone. That is a far slower pace than today's instantaneous texting culture. Yes, I do text. Some things have been lost, while others have been gained. That's the way it always will be. Just wait. Probably just how often you had to accept that you couldn't find out the answer to something. If you had a question, you could ask your family, maybe your friends, maybe your teachers, and your last chance was to check the library. But if the library didn't have the answer, then you just had to accept that you weren't going to get an answer, or you'd have to hope to come across that answer someday in the future. Now you just ask Google and get 10 answers in just seconds. Kids used to rely on that for so much fun nonsense, like that one classmate who always made an outrageous claim, allegedly passed to them by some uncle who worked in some exciting industry or field, and you could either believe them or not. You certainly couldn't look up the truth. How on time you had to be for your favorite shows, because there was little to no chance you'd see that same episode again until they, hopefully, did reruns during summer. I remember waiting anxiously for the nightly news to be over so I could watch my favorite TV shows. Commercial breaks were just mad rushes for the bathroom or to the kitchen to get something quick to drink, hollering through the house to your sibling, "It's starting." That it was incredibly common to just not have pictures of events or other things we see as important now. Not only did we have entire vacations where no pictures were taken, we could go months without a single picture being taken of any member of our family, unless it was particularly notable. A trip to St. Louis, no pictures. A trip to Disneyland, maybe a picture at the entry gate or one of the souvenir pictures of us with a character. A trip to zoo, no pictures. An average day, forget about it. Frequently, the only pictures taken were at major holidays like Christmas or on someone's birthday. They understand restaurants had smoking sections and that bars and clubs were filled with cigarette smoke. But I don't think many understood how pervasive smoking was. There were ashtrays and people smoking literally everywhere. Jury boxes had ashtrays in front of every juror. Judge smoked, lawyer smoked, the gallery smoked. You smoked on planes, trains, buses, taxicabs, and all transportation centers. You smoked at the library, the PTO meetings at schools, the town hall and all city offices. Hell, you could smoke at the courtyard at my high school as a student. You smoked in the elevator and on the escalator, the mall, sports venues, doctors' offices, hospitals, the movies, the plays, opera, concerts, and every other public performance. A non-smoker would come home often smelling like smoke. One was constantly surrounded by smoke. It was insane, probably underestimating how few choices there were. Today, It seems like everything imaginable is available in a variety of sizes, delivered to your door overnight, catalogs and mail order. With 4 to 6 week delivery, malls were the best thing ever. All the stores in one place, and not downtown, definitely. And also just how little people knew they were missing out. If it wasn't on network evening television, channels 2, 4, 7, 9, and 11, or on a store shelf in your town, or in the Sunday newspaper, it simply didn't exist for you. If you had an inkling something existed, say tin foil that comes in sheets instead of one giant roll, you could go around asking people if you wanted, but you were more than likely to just get a shrug, and that's it. Why would you want such a thing? Let's say you were particularly enterprising, so you dial 0 and ask the operator for the number for corporate headquarters of Reynolds, if you knew the city it was in, because there was no internet, and the only way to find a number was by dialing 0 and speaking to a telephone operator. But even if you spoke to someone at Reynolds, they had no way to exchange money for goods at that level, and they probably would just tell you they sell it in the Ohio area, and that would be that. You went to the market, they have one brand of pancake mix, and no one had ever heard of anything different, and why would you want a different brand anyway? Then you go to the hardware store, and they carry 2 brands of paint, and no one had ever heard of any other brand of paint, and it was that way for a long time. A lot of people sound like they think we lived in silent bubbles, because we didn't have smartphones and computers weren't common. On the contrary, we talked a lot, like a lot. If you had questions, you talked, then you went to the library, and then you talked some more, and wrote letters, and passed notes like crazy. The chatter never stopped. People would scold women for gossiping and make jokes about it, but the men were just the same. Everyone is like. Kids these days have no privacy, but you couldn't kiss your boyfriend on the street without hearing about it from every random person in the neighborhood. How common drinking and driving was, until MAD came along. People did this routinely. It's where one for the road originated. My parents were pretty progressive, and I remember them being outraged because they found out the cops pulled my uncle over for driving all over both lanes. He was so drunk the officer had to open the door for him, and he fell out of the car. They let him drive home with a warning because his kids were in the car, and they didn't want him to look bad in front of his kids. Anyway, the rest of the family thought this was fine because he drives slow when he's drunk. Landline telephones had seriously great audio quality, better than anything for remote conversation today. In my opinion, I distinctly remember being a teenager and just talking on the phone with someone late into the night, hearing them breathe and sigh, hearing their every little sound. There wasn't the lag and the noise cancelling, and the high compression that ruins telephony today. It was a much purer way to feel like you were closer to someone than anything we have today. How hard it was to get adult content. You had to go buy it in person. Mail order adult content was a possibility, but then the postman knows. They always knew. When I was about 11 to 12, our crew were riding our bikes out of the neighborhood and found a paper grocery bag full of old Playboys by the side of the main road. Thought we hit the lottery for a bunch of pubescent boys. We hid them in the woods until they finally fell apart. People say that the 80s were all about consumerism, which is true, but the products were well made and fixable. Towns had repair shops for everything. You just didn't buy a disposable TV. If it broke, you took it in to get fixed. Nowadays, if your TV breaks, it's tossed and you get a new one. Kids think things weren't as simple as they see on TV. They were. For better and for worse, Mom drove up to a service station, and when the car rolled over the small hoses on the ground, the bell went off. Ding ding. A young man in overalls came running out and began filling the tank, then checked the oil, washed the windows, checked the tire pressure, all before the tank was full. Then he'd complete the cash transaction, and off you went. The world stopped at the edge of your town. If you knew someone far away, you wrote letters with a postage stamp. Most people had telephones, but answering machines didn't come around for a long time. And if someone moved without leaving a forwarding address, or didn't tell you. They stopped existing. There was just no way to find them. I'm going to the store. When will I be back? When I get back. What if you need me? I don't know what to say. Yes, I have the quarter in my pocket for a phone booth in case something happens. If the car broke down, you just walked until you found a phone booth, or sat on the side of the road until someone stopped to help. Service stations all carried paper maps, but you had to talk to people too. They'd say things like, well, the last fuel for 200 miles is up yonder, so if you keep driving you'd best make sure you got a full tank before you head out. If you had a bike, the world was your oyster on Saturdays, whether you liked it or not. The last cartoon stopped at 9:30 a.m. and then you weren't allowed in the house until dinner. Riding with friends to the railroad tracks because you found a penny and you could put it on the tracks when a train came, and then pick up the smashed penny and keep it. And then you find a quarter in the dirt and it's off to the corner market because they sell caps. You can't afford a cap gun, but you can find two rocks and you can smash caps for an hour or two. You have to pee. Find a grass field or the side of a warehouse because you're not allowed home until dinner. You're hungry. There's usually a blackberry bush or a crabapple tree you can swipe something from, and then wash off any bird poop in a creek. You're thirsty. Lots of houses have garden hoses out front. Don't get caught, or be faster on your bike than the person can run. Paper checks were another one. There weren't ATMs, so you got a paper check and had to go to the bank during banking hours, and you could withdraw money, and you could write a check. But if the place you wanted to go didn't take checks, like a movie theater, and you didn't have cash, you just didn't get to go. You had to wait until the bank opened Monday morning. Share in the comments below what you want to say to younger generations about the past decades. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Bye.